It's a Shedeur Sanders summer. Let me tell you, the Colorado quarterback is absolutely shredding the defense during camp, and that means a lot of things. I'm going to talk about all those things on today's episode of Locked On Buffs.
You are Locked On Buffs, your daily podcast on the Colorado Buffaloes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? This is Locked On Buffs. I am your host, Kevin Borba. Today, we're talking about Shedeur Sanders' dominance during fall camp. We're going to be talking about the running backs and who's leading the way. And then we're going to be talking about Colorado to the Big 12 again. I've talked about it many times. I've had our guests the past couple of times they've come on discuss, can Colorado dominate the Big 12? And we've all come to the agreement that they can, but which teams are going to be the most challenging for them? Which teams are going to be in their way, standing in their way of doing that? But before we dive into all of these lovely topics, these days, every new potential hire could feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. That's why LinkedIn Jobs can help you find the right people for your team faster and for free. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. Terms and conditions apply. Yes, this episode is brought to you by LinkedIn, of course. Okay, let's dive right in. The other day, the guys over at DNVR and Uncle Neely were discussing fall camp. It's been going on for about a week now, and obviously, last week, Shedeur Sanders said that he felt like he knew about 80% of the offense, and there was still some room for him to grow. I think he was underselling himself a little bit because, let's just say, even if he doesn't know the offense like by the back of his hand, he's got a pretty good grasp on it, and his receivers and himself are making some pretty darn good plays. We've seen the video of Jimmy Horn absolutely wrecking the defense. It was Shedeur Sanders was making an off-schedule throw, which love to see. Kind of worked out of the pocket, was running away from the defense, planted his feet, threw it to Jimmy Horn, who was open over the middle. Kind of had a little area to wiggle around with, and probably wasn't a defender for about 4 or 5 yards, and then all of a sudden he turned on the jets and he was gone. I think we forget how fast Jimmy Horn is, and I think we forget how fast and dangerous people in space are that are that fast. So look out for Jimmy Horn. I tweeted I would advise defenses to not leave him that open. And obviously Colorado's defense is learning the hard way, but Uncle Neely revealed Shedeur Sanders. Quite the stat line for fall camp. I want to say they've been going at it, we'll say, for a little over a week is what we'll call it. Or by the time he said this, it probably was a week. His stat line in 11 on 11s, because he obviously, I think we saw him get picked off by Travis Hunter during the one-on-one stuff. 22 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Let me repeat that. 22 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Say they have practice 5 days a week, and let's do some math real quick. He's averaging almost 4.5 touchdowns per practice against the defense, which, I mean, good for him, good for the offense, great for Sean Lewis, because that means the offense is clicking. It means Shedeur Sanders is clicking with his weapons. It means he's finding Xavier Weaver. He's finding Javon Antonio. He's finding Jimmy Horn Jr. He's finding Tavares Dawson, whoever it may be. They're making it work. They're making it happen. They're making the plays. What does that mean for Shedeur? Well, I think it means everything. Obviously, we know he's succeeded at Jackson State, which got them to the highest level possible. But you still need confidence for everything. And I don't know if he's nervous. He says he's not. He says he's a Sanders, so he's not. But either way, there's still an adjustment going from playing against teams like North Carolina Central to teams against like USC or Oregon. So to have him build this confidence is fantastic. And to have him build that rapport, with his receivers, even better. I think you love to see it. I think the biggest thing about Shedeur Sanders is, will he continue to make the throws that are always the best and smartest throws? Because he did that at Jackson State, rarely turned the ball over, but he was obviously well advanced for that level. When he gets to a higher level against higher defenses, will he have some throws where it's like, probably wouldn't have made that one? Probably. But if he can limit those, obviously this offense is going to excel. That's not a hot take by any means. But what does this mean for the defense? For the defense, that's concerning. I don't really know it's interesting because I don't want to say the defense is going to be bad now because Shedeur Sanders is shredding them. We knew Shedeur Sanders was good. We knew the wide receivers were good, but maybe would like to see a turnover or two forced. I feel like I've seen videos of the defense getting pressure on Shedeur, but I feel like more often than not, I've seen the offense beating out the defense. Obviously, I'm sure they don't want to post videos of their quarterback getting sacked constantly because then that'll become a meme in and of itself. But if I'm the defense, definitely Charles Kelly and the crew probably need to. There's probably some meetings that are not going so well, but they're also still filling out some position battles. So that's interesting. But I will say to have your quarterback throw 22 touchdowns and no picks builds his confidence, coordinator's confidence, team's confidence. And it kind of helps the defense in a way because it helps them figure out what they're doing wrong. And maybe it helps them figure out who's not doing what they need to do and get that guy off the field. I think that's the brutal part of the business. There's going to be certain guys who we thought would be starters, and because they're struggling during fall camp, we may see them have a reduced role. But yeah, I think for Shedeur Sanders to kind of emerge this successful after saying he only has that he feels like 80% confident in the offense in terms of like his knowledge and stuff of it because it's his third one in 3 seasons. And I feel like that's quite impressive. Good for Shedeur, good for the Buffs. And I know you guys are going to be happy. And TCU is right around the corner. We're less than a month away from the game. We're a few weeks away now. And a lot of excitement for the season. And it's just going to be, great. College football is finally back. We're finally almost talking about stuff that's happening on the field. So it's going to be fantastic. I'm going to have season previews coming up with people who cover the other team. So that'll be a fun thing for you guys to look out for as well. Let's dive into the fact that this episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. You want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available, and that's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. I myself found my first job out of college on LinkedIn. I was able to search what I was looking for, search where I was looking for, and found the perfect job for me. If you want to do the same or hire someone who wants to work for you, add your job and the purple hashtag hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you're hiring. Simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. That's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the quality candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedon. That's linkedin.com/lockedon to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Okay, we talked about Shedeur. He's tearing up the defense. If I'm the defense, I'm a little concerned. Obviously, we don't know like how many sacks the defense has gotten, but that's a pretty big number. Would like to see a few more turnovers out of a secondary that is very experienced. That's the most experienced position group on the team, and probably the most talented, I guess you could say, from top to bottom, is the secondary. So, would like to see a little more there, but it is what it is. We got an update on the running backs from Coach Flea. They wrote about this over at Buffs Wire earlier today. Obviously, running back wise, they have Kavosi Smoke, Alton McCaskill, Dylan Edwards, Sivion Wilkerson from Jackson State. The position group is pretty deep, and it's going to be a tough battle. Coach Flea broke down Gary Flea Harrell. Broke down who's going to be the leader right now and who they want to kind of what they envision for the running back room. And so, as we expected, and as I've called multiple times, he said that Alton McCaskill, the Houston running back, who was an elite player for Houston 2 years ago and tore his ACL this past season, so we didn't get to see him. Sounds like he's the lead back. And then it goes, you have Kavosi Smoke, Dylan Edwards, and Anthony Hankerson are all right behind him. So this is what he had to say. He said, we want 2 guys that could carry the load. And then went on to say that it's Alton McCaskill leading the way with Edwards and Hankerson kind of rounding up the pack. So what does this tell us about the running backs? Well, one, we knew, or if you guys tuned into Locked On Buffs every day, like I've been telling you, because I appreciate you guys and you're my everydayers, my everyday listeners. You guys know that I've been on Alton McCaskill as soon as they got him. I told you guys that he would probably be the best running back in that room and probably help lift that running back room to being one of the better ones in the Pac-12. So he's already kind of supplanted himself atop the running back room. I think we expected this. Kavosi Smoke, okay. Kavosi Smoke has experience at Kentucky, yes. Experience on SEC, yes, but he was not the main guy. It was Chris Rodriguez, which there's nothing wrong with. So I just figured Alton McCaskill, when healthy, would be able to kind of just hop back into his old form. He knows what it takes, and neither of them were there for spring ball. So it works out in both their favor. They're on an even playing ground. For guys like Dylan Edwards and Anthony Hankerson, spring ball was the chance for them to kind of cement themselves atop the depth chart, but obviously they've been unable to do that, which there's nothing wrong with. These guys are both talented running backs, and same with Hankerson and Edwards. I'm sure they're both all see their fair share of carries, but when you have a guy like Alton McCaskill, who's the American freshman of the year, or rookie of the year, whatever they call it over there, that's a pretty big name to have kind of in the backfield. And so good for him. Good for this offense, because realistically, Shedeur Sanders, when he's not shredding defenses and they want to take some pressure off him, they can just turn it around and hand it to one of these 4 running backs who they're going to make some plays. I did think it was interesting that he said he wants it to be 2 guys, so they're going to go 1-2 constantly. I don't know how often they rotate, but that'll be something to look out for as well, because obviously you like to change the pace up. You like to, especially when they go as fast as they do, you want your running backs to be fresh, which that makes sense for the Sean Lewis system, because you don't want, say, Alton McCaskill out there just absolutely gassed, and maybe he fumbles, or maybe he isn't ready to make plays. You want him to be able to make the best plays he can make, and you want Kavosi Smoke to be able to contribute the best way he could contribute. So having 2 starting caliber running backs, probably having 3 really, because I think Dylan Edwards could be a starter eventually. That's an embarrassment of riches. You'd love to see that. You'd love to see that for Colorado. You'd love to see that for this offense, and hopefully, hopefully they can make it work in the season where they have like a perfect mixture of them both. Like maybe they go McCaskill for a couple carries, then they bring in Smoke and he just powers it down your throat for short yardage, or maybe you bring them both on the field. Maybe you get a little creative there. You have so many options with this running back tandem, and you just love to see it if you're a Colorado fan. So look out for how they do, and look out for just really how the season goes for the Buffs in terms of the run game, because the run game, it depends on the offensive line as well. So if the run game doesn't get going, that means the offensive line likely isn't doing their job, because we know that these 2 running backs are talented. When we come back, I'm going to be talking about the 5 toughest teams in the Big 12 for Colorado that they're going to have to kind of unseat, or at least compete with, to take over the conference when we come back. Welcome back. We're talking about who Colorado needs to kind of unseat in the Big 12. Obviously, there's a lot of talent in the Big 12. There's a lot of mystery about the new look Big 12, because obviously when you lose Texas and Oklahoma, it leaves everything up for grabs. Realistically, every year since let me just break this down. The 2021 season, marked the first time since 2003 that a Big 12 team not named Oklahoma or Texas won the Big 12 title game. Oklahoma currently holds 14 of the titles, and the next 3 schools, I think it is, have 3. Texas is one of those schools. So there's there's 17 championships gone, and those teams play in it just about every year. At least one of them does. So who could Colorado? Because obviously they're going to the SEC. So it looks like there's a clear path to the top. So who are these teams that are going to give Colorado difficulties and kind of claiming a top spot? Because realistically, you get Coach Prime, you plant him in Dallas or Texas, wherever it may be, San Antonio, probably Dallas. He's going to recruit that area so well, so freaking well. He's from there, knows the coaches, already has connections there, is already recruiting it well. Having games in Texas will all going to help him. Same thing with Orlando. He's going to have 2 games there every 4 years probably. So that's going to be huge. Colorado is on the come up. Plus, Coach Prime's a great coach. He's got a great staff. He's built this roster up. I think the best you can be without having actual proof at Colorado that could work. He attracted a bunch of top talent, which is great for him and the program. So there's a big case for Colorado to kind of take over. He's got the recruiting savvy, the transfer portal savvy, and obviously he's got the coaching savvy himself, being one of the best football players to ever play the game. But these are the teams that I think are going to challenge Colorado. UCF, they have an experienced coach in Gus Malzahn, who came over from Auburn. They're coming off back-to-back 9-win seasons. I think them being in the Big 12 also helps their recruiting. They already get guys from Florida and Georgia, but now that they're in a power conference, the Power 3, Power 4, whatever you want to call it, it's going to be a little bit easier to recruit. Florida used to be the Big 3. It was Florida State, Florida, and Miami. Now it's kind of becoming the Big 4. UCF is making some noise in the recruiting trail. So I think that's going to be another competitor for Colorado out there, recruiting-wise, and just the program trajectory. They seem to be continuing to rise up. TCU. I think of any of the teams in the Big 12 right now, if I had to put money on one of them, for them to like seamlessly transition to being, I want to say like a mid-tier program, because obviously they made it to the playoff, but transitioning to being one of the top teams in the conference, it'd be TCU. They've already made the playoff. That success alone saw them bring in their best recruiting class in program history. Sonny Dykes appears to have everything dialed in over there in Dallas-Fort Worth. So you'd love to see that for the Horned Frogs. For Colorado, that's going to be a challenging matchup, recruiting-wise, on the field. And we look forward. I said that could be one of the rivals, and I look forward to seeing those two match up. So, yeah, we got TCU. Kansas State. I think they're kind of also joining TCU in terms of being like the front runners that are, I guess you could say, leading the way in terms of controlling the Big 12 once Texas and Oklahoma leave. We haven't seen Kansas State do it consecutively like they won it this past year. We need to see them continue to do it to really make that claim. But Chris Kleinman's got them headed in the perfect direction. Perfectly built program right there. And another challenge, another possible rival for Colorado. Moving on. This one's more underrated, but I feel like once I tell you about it, it'll make sense. Texas Tech. Last year, they kind of made the joke. I don't know if it was a joke. He seems serious. They beat Texas, and Joey McGuire, their head coach, was like, the Big 12 runs through Lubbock. And it was like, okay. I mean, it was only week 3 or week 2 at the time, or it was early in the season. And so it was like, okay, Big 12 runs through Lubbock. Doubt it, but we'll see. And then they ended up not running. The Big 12 did not run through Lubbock, but they still had their first 8-win season since 2013. He's got a great energy over there. Big football guy, just a football energy guy. He's changed recruiting in his own way. He's kind of revolutionized it in a sense that he has and from my understanding, his position coaches do not scout players. They are given a list by the personnel department, and they're like, these are the guys you're recruiting. So they're allowed to work more with their players that are on the roster rather than having to go find guys out there and wherever and be like, okay, we like this guy and we think he could bring that to the table. Either way, Texas Tech is on the come up. They have a strong quarterback room of the future. They have a strong program. They have a strong culture. And I think they are looking to kind of emerge out of the shadow of Texas. Even though Texas hasn't been that good over the past decade, Texas Tech is kind of always the little brother. So without Texas in the conference, obviously gives them a chance. Then go to Utah twice. We're going to start off with BYU. BYU has been very successful under Kalani Sitake. They kind of they've already shown that they could compete with Big 12 schools to beat Baylor last year. They kind of, I don't want to say that they've overachieved, but I would say they've overachieved as an independent. And so now in a conference, I think they'll get more of a boost in recruiting. I think they'll get more of a boost in just overall performance, and because of their boost in recruiting. So look for BYU to kind of be a difficult team to play. Then Utah. I would say Utah and Colorado, my two favorites to kind of be the newest schools to succeed, the fastest. Back-to-back Pac-12 titles. They have a heck of a culture there in Salt Lake City. Kyle Whittingham knows what he's doing. I think their style of football is compatible just about anywhere. They're going to be probably the most physical team. They're probably going to be the most, probably the best coach team, or one of the best coach teams in the Pac-12 or in the Big 12, excuse me. And so Utah is another team that I think could challenge Colorado, because Colorado, realistically, I don't really know what to make of this season, because next year it's going to be so different. They're going to be playing different opponents and stuff. But Colorado still has to rebuild a little bit, and they still have to get their bearings. So a lot to be excited about if you're a Colorado fan. Shedeur Sanders is shredding defenses. The running backs are looking strong. They got a great tandem in Alton McCaskill and Kavosi Smoke. And then heading to the Big 12, there's 5 teams that I think Colorado realistically will need to battle it out for the pole positioning for the top spot every year. And it's going to be a great storyline to follow. I appreciate you guys for following me along over at Locked On Buffs. Make sure to like, subscribe, and follow. Make sure to comment below. Want to do another question and answer. So if you guys got questions, let them fly so that way I can answer them on Fridays. I appreciate you guys for tuning in to Locked On Buffs and making your first listen. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast. Have a great day.